new to me with two people.
Yeah, and I've never done one online. I mean, the video stuff is easy. I don't have to do a darn thing. I just had to buy the computer, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Click a couple buttons.
Okay. Right. So I believe that we have just gone live.
Uh-oh.
No stress at all. We'll have a very laid back, casual time.
Let's do it.
So thank you both so much for being here today. Today I am joined by Landspeed Louise and Noeth and Nick Bagley. Landspeed Louise is a storyteller, an auto writer and racer, an extreme speed consultant for film and television, and has spent decades participating in and documenting motorsports. And today she's going to be chatting with us about her book, Bonneville Salt Flats, which focuses on land speed racers who came together in the Salt Flats during the late 1940s and beyond that. And also chatting with us today is Nick Bagley. He is an abandoned building photographer whose work includes ghost towns, mines, homes, and whatever else he finds along the way. And today he is going to be chatting with us about his book, Abandoned Utah, which combines photography of abandoned buildings with a bit of their history as well, because he's researched all of the places that he photographs. And before I turn the time over to the two of them, I just wanted to go over a few of the upcoming events at our bookstore. Saturday, December 5th at 2 p.m., Steve Creason is going to be sharing poems from his latest collection, Big Day, a short film that he shot on 16 millimeter, and a music video from his daughter, Fern Creason. And then on December 9th at 6 p.m., we have our virtual Lit Knit, which is what it sounds like. You get crafty, you get chatty, work on any knitting projects you have. It's always really fun. And that's actually it for the events we have this year. We'll have more events going on next year, probably starting in February. So keep an eye out for those. But with all that being said, I am now going to turn the time over to Louise and Nick. And if any of you watching have any questions for either of them, please leave a comment down below and we'll end with a little Q&A. Right, thank you.
All right.
All right, so I guess we're supposed to start talking, huh, Nick?
So here we go, huh? You want to go first?
Well, I guess they want to know about the book. So the book is obviously in Arcadia, Images of America. I'd seen these things, but I had no idea how they were all put together until I got this phone call of this sweet little voice late last year. Said, do you know anything about Bonneville? And I just held my breath because I get those calls a lot. Yes, and bottom line is, well, we'd like to do a book on Bonneville. Okay, what kind of book? And then she had to explain what it was, and I had to go to the website and went, okay. And so what do you want me to do? Well, and then she explained the business policy, and I thought, whoa, time out. How about, I know what we'll do. This is for people who have never been to Bonneville, may never go to Bonneville, don't know anybody from Bonneville or goes to Bonneville or races at Bonneville, but has always heard about Bonneville and about people that go there and why do they go there and what do they do and why do they keep going back? It's just, I relate it to the space station. You may not know an astronaut, you may never go to the station, but you're sure interested. What do they do up there and how come they go? And that's how I approached the book. I took my original book from 1999 on the history of the Salt Flats and people, who they were and what they did when they came there. And I did it with pictures. And this was a very cool little book because normally you add pictures to the text.
Yeah.
It's the first time as a photographer, I spit the words out and I went to the pictures first. And I had to make sure that those things lived beautifully in black and white. And so that was a big challenge, but it was like Christmas morning. I had a good time doing this book. And we're going to do another one. Just so you know, ladies, we found out, or I found out in doing this, there are probably over 200 women that wear helmets, Nomex, and are in the record books. And of that, they probably account for anywhere from 400 to 500 land speed records.
Wow.
So we're going to do a book just about the girls in helmets. Hang on, boys. We're coming. So how about you? Tell me about your book.
So, and the way this one started, this is my first book ever, but I've always been into photography, even as a little kid. And, when you're little, you want to explore creepy places, or I guess some people are afraid of them, but I always wanted to go into the buildings.
You and I would have been in the same boat.
Yeah, and then it just kind of transformed into the photography side of things. And I was always doing it as a hobby. And then through social media, it was Arcadia who reached out to me. And then they said, you'd be a perfect fit for our Abandoned or America Through Time series with the Abandoned series.
Oh, okay. All right. So so they reached out to you too.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting phone call, I'll bet.
Yeah. And it took me by surprise too. And, I was like, of course I'm going to do this. This is what I do in my free time as it is. So why wouldn't I make a book of it? And,
there you go. Now, I've seen one of your books or something somewhere. Yeah. I know the name. As soon as they said the abandoned place, I said, "Oh, I've seen that." Is it only Utah, or have you been caught skulking around other places?
I've been all over the place, but this book is Utah specific. But yeah,
oh, okay.
I mean, because I'm from New York originally, so I've got a lot of pictures from upstate New York, places up there. But go to Colorado, go to Nevada, Montana, just all over, really, wherever we can.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I think I may have seen some of your stuff from New York. Is it on one of the islands? Not Ellis, but other stuff?
Wish that was me, but no, not me.
That old abandoned hospital?
Yes, actually. Yeah, an abandoned hospital in
That's it.
New York. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. That's what I remember. Because I like that stuff. If there's a way to get in, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to go and then make my excuses.
That's how I am too,
Yeah, exactly. So has your book been released so far, the Arcadia book?
Yeah, so they released it on August 24th. And yeah, the feedback's been pretty good, just on social media, stuff like that. I've had quite a few people reach out to me, telling me how much they like it.
Have you gone around Bonneville, or you went over and taken a look? You had to go to Danger Cave.
No, I haven't been to Danger Cave.
Oh, bad boy. Okay.
Here,
you had to go to Wendover Airfield?
Yes, I've been there.
Yeah, you got to call though, because they got it all locked up like a prison for obvious reasons. Yeah. But Wendover Airfield, you had to go there.
Oh yeah, I've been there many times.
Yeah, because there's some really cool buildings. Although Jim Peterson's making his mission in life to restore that to its former glory, which is way, way cool.
Oh yeah, I hope it happens. It's such a cool place as it is. It'd be awesome.
Well, we're chatting. It's not anywhere there. Everybody keeps trying to do a museum about Bonneville at Wendover, and it all just crashes and burns. Peterson, though, has got the space, and if he can get the grants, I've told him I'd help, and there's a number of us that will help create maybe one of those barracks buildings that you saw where they had the servicemen in.
Yeah.
One of those could be a starter pilot barracks for a little bit about land speed racing. So, I mean, knock on wood, we'll see how that goes. But that's probably the most opportune one. And it does two things. It preserves the airfield. And when people understand what happened there, they kind of, they straighten up. Really? And then two, it creates a local area for land speed racing. Because when Arcadia said, blah, 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 okay, that's great. And they said, so we sell locally. How many copies do you think we would sell of your book in Wendover? Yeah. And I went, well, if it wasn't August or September, maybe one or two.
Yeah, it is pretty funny though how that whole place changes when when the speed records are being set. And I've gone a couple times, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so you've been out there for the races.
Yeah, I went out there. It's been 2 or 3 years, but I was able to go out there because in my day job I do medical imaging, and then it just so happened that one of the patients that was in there, he was like, oh, so I run one of the hotels there or something. I actually didn't work with this guy. It was one of my friends, but he managed to give us basically VIP passes, I guess you could say. So we got to go up to the front, on the starting line. So that was pretty cool. It was a pretty neat experience.
So is that not just the greatest mechanical circus you've ever seen in your life?
It's crazy. And,
I mean, everything from the sterling perfect pieces of jewelry that
Yeah.
go like scalded cats
Yeah.
to the most broken down looking, grody, nasty thing that also go like scalded cats.
Yeah.
And it's everybody's idea. It's this, I call it a mechanical circus. And some of the guys get all annoyed because I call it a circus. I'm sorry. Out here looking at that, when you see all in this class, in any class, you got 20, 30 people all trying to be the fastest, and they all come at it from a different aspect or a different vector. They vector in on that record in different ways. And I think that's the part that got me. It's not, and I, with all due respect to Mario Andretti, whom I know and I like, or Richard Penske, I also know and like, you know what? They're all professionals.
Yeah.
But these folks are amateurs. And I remind Penske, and I've reminded Mario, they are the fastest people on earth.
Yeah.
And they're amateurs. They don't get paid for this. They do it because their heart, their head, and bragging rights. Oh my word, bragging rights.
Yeah.
So to follow this, and actually since about 1949 when the hot rodders got there, that's when it was the little people. From about 1914 to 1949 with the early folks there, they would, you see that shirt you got on there, sir?
Yep.
There would be a tie or a bow tie, and then they would put the overalls on and they would climb in their race car.
Yeah.
That was gentleman racing.
Yeah. Times have changed. Huh?
Yeah, and when the hot rods came, you know, it was jeans, rolled up cigarettes in your t-shirt, and just filthy dirty as long as you could go fast.
Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to impart, that this is this wonderful esprit de corps of ordinary people that do extraordinary things. And you were there, so you saw that.
Yeah.
And they all enjoy it. I mean, and you can't do this stuff by yourself. You got to have friends, you got to have family, you got to have a combination thereof. And frankly, if you were out there and you were in the right place at the right time, they would have put a rag in your hand and said, "Help me, can you hold this?" Because it doesn't matter. Did you walk around the pits and did you get that kind of friendliness?
Yeah.
Tell me a story about one of them. What resonates with you?
One guy in particular, he was from Australia, and I don't remember the specifics, like what kind of car he had, but it was definitely more the amateur level. You know, you could tell where things had just kind of been welded on, and he had made his side mirrors out of like a piece of a broken mirror or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just a character. And he's like, you know, I come here every year. I don't break any records, but I'm here every year, you know?
And that's it. Yeah, so that's the deal.
And then,
okay, so who else?
Yeah, well, they have.
Who did you admire the most?
Gosh, well, I have to say, can't think of an individual necessarily, but they had the bike there from the movie The World's Fastest Indian. Can't think of the guy's name right now.
Oh, Burt Monroe.
Yes, Burt
Yeah,
Monroe.
yeah, the Indian. Yeah.
And they had that there on display. You know, we could go up and look at that. And I had watched that movie when I was a kid. So, wow. And coming from New York, I never really thought I'd ever find myself out here. You know, it's like, who would have thought when I was watching this when I was a kid that I'd be out here watching this happen for real, you know?
I got a news flash for you. Burt Monroe never thought he'd get there either.
Yeah, exactly.
He was friends with another motorcycle racer of his peerage called Marty Dickinson. And him and Marty got to be real good buddies. They would write back and forth, you know, not text, write letters. And Marty gave me copies of about a half a dozen letters that were really intuitive about what made a Burt Monroe and who he was. And so that started it. So I know quite a bit about the guy. And yes, that's a perfect example. That boy came all the way around the world and cooked for people on a ship just so he could get there, because he didn't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. And
Yeah.
he lived in his garage.
Yeah.
And but all he wanted to do is answer that question that they have asked since they have had a wheel. And that is, how fast will it go? And he'd figured that out on how fast he could go in New Zealand. He figured it out on how fast he could go in Australia. But until he could figure it out on the Bonneville Salt Flats, life was not going to be over for him. And it's interesting. You ever heard of a guy by the name of Andy Green?
Andy Green, I don't think so, no.
That boy right now, unfortunately, is still the fastest man on earth. And I say unfortunately because he's a Brit and not an American. And Andy, if you're watching, we're coming for you someday.
Calling him out, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Well, he went 763 miles an hour, the first supersonic. Nothing to sneeze at. I was there. I dusted my head. I congratulated him. But, you know, the only thing that was there, it was a Union Jack and not you know, the Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
But he, the fastest man on earth, he did that in 1997. He came back with a group from JCB, Diesel. Think about Caterpillar and John Deere. You know,
Yeah.
These are ditch digger people. These are bulldozer people.
Yeah, they don't go fast.
The owner of the company wanted to have his own little motor instead of this Perkins, which we use. Never mind, that's another story. So he wanted the JCB diesel. Well, you know, you're going to rip out the engine that everybody's relied on for decades, and you're going to say just because you want to put your sticker on the damn thing. And he figured, well, how am I going to do this? And he remembered as a boy, just like you remembered reading about it in New York. Well, you know, maybe if I could prove my new engine, my JCB engine on the salt in a car, maybe my customer base would believe me.
Yeah.
No, we're talking, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that puts ditch diggers and bulldozers all over the world. Yeah. And he bets his company on the Bonneville Salt Flats and the Streamlayer. And he gets Andy to drive the car. Yeah. They deliver the fire suit. I'll never forget it. It was yellow and black. He put that thing on. I said, "You're the perfect bumblebee." But Andy took the job, not because he had to, but here's where it counts. He took it because he was unfulfilled. This is the dude that's Mr. Fast, right?
Yeah.
And he had not set the record on the Bonneville Salt Flats. It was at Black Rock. He wanted a record like his peers before him, Campbell and Cobb and Easton and Goldie Gardner, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
It's Sterling Moss. Oh, can't forget Sterling. And so that's why he took the job driving a ditch digger diesel and prevailed. And so they have, you know, when you set a record at Bonneville, it's not the first run. You got to do, there's no one-shot wonders. You got to go up and go back, 2 runs, and the average. So I didn't bother with them on the first time because a lot of guys, or gals, they get tired and they go back and try again. But when it was the record run, I didn't wait at the starting line. I went all the way down. Excuse me, a little more. All the way down to the end, watched him hit the parachute, watched where he turned out. And I was one of the first ones there. I said, I'm doing this. I'm going to get yelled at because I'm here before the safety crew, but I'll be damned. I wanted to be the very first person to shake your hand and congratulate you on a record at Bonneville. And we just laughed.
Must have been quite the moment, though.
It was quite the deal. So tell me one of your stories about your book, because if you don't jump in, I'm going to just run over the top of you.
Well, yeah, I've got all kinds of stories, really. Just from exploring Utah. Like I said, this book's just in Utah.
So tell me, what's the coolest what's the weirdest spot in Utah?
Well, there's a couple different definitions of weird. There's like scary weird and then just kind of crazy weird, but we'll go with scary weird for this.
Okay.
One. So downtown Salt Lake, there's a lot of abandoned buildings down there.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets scary though, because in the city, there's drug addicts, homeless people, all kinds of stuff. And this actually happened to me pretty recently. I was exploring, just looking around, doing my thing. I usually go in pretty quick, grab a couple photos. And then sure enough, there's someone basically shooting up in the back room. So that's scary, weird. And that's why I don't go to downtown Salt Lake that often. I try to find like the ghost town, stuff like that.
So what was the scary, funny, or just scary, but not just the weird, odd one?
The weirdest ones are definitely the abandoned mines, no doubt about it. Yeah.
You do this by yourself?
No, I don't do the mines by myself.
Okay, all right, because I was going to have to get your mother's phone number.
Oh, she already knows about it. And trust me, after she's got the book, she's already terrified, I'm sure. And she's listening. I think she's listening right now. So sorry, Mom.
That's all right. When I told my parents that I was going to quit my very good job at a recording studio and that helped produce the Grammy Awards, and I was going to run away and drive jet cars, my mother honestly thought I needed to have a psychiatric evaluation. She came up and touched my head. She said, "Are you sure these bumps are there? I mean, do you feel okay, really?" She couldn't believe I was going to do that. I did it.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the mine shafts, they're scary just because you'll stumble upon a partially caved in shaft sometimes. And it's like, gosh.
You go down the shaft?
Oh, we go in them and explore around them. And
you rappel down with your little hats on?
Well, we haven't had to rappel yet. We haven't gotten to that level yet. But yeah,
how do you go down a shaft?
There's a lot of open ones. So there's the vertical shafts, and then there's like the lower ones that you can just walk into.
Okay.
Utah is full of them. They are everywhere. You go out to Eureka, Utah, and this is kind of a funny story. This is how we got into the whole mining thing. We were just exploring the old town of Eureka because there's a lot of cool buildings there just in the town itself. And we went out of the town, pulled into a dirt road just to turn around to go back through the town. As we pull in the road, there's just an open mine shaft right there. And that's what started the whole thing. Whoa. My friend and I looked at each other and we're like, well, we got to go in there. Like, yeah, of course. And then it just, spiraled out of control after that, because you go in them and you lose track of time and you just want to find out what's around that corner every time. And
yeah, but you got to have that little stringer to breadcrumbs like Tom Sawyer, because otherwise you get into trouble. Have you brought a compass? Do they work inside, or do they get all screwy because of all the ore?
So luckily, we haven't had. I have had a compass in there, and we haven't really had to use it though. The ones we've gone into are pretty straightforward, and the majority of them people have explored before, so it's all mapped out. They haven't mapped out in the walls when you get.
Oh, okay, all right. All right.
But if we feel like we're on the verge of getting lost, we just get out. That's the last thing we want to do is just get trapped underground. There's no service down there. So, but yeah, I'll never forget that though. We just pulled up a random dirt road to turn around, and then it started a whole thing. And that was about 5 years ago now. And it's kind of an obsession.
Is your criteria you got to be able to walk in? Have you ever gone diving in any of the water? I mean, especially Salt Lake and then Blue Lake. That there's a place they train.
Oh yeah,
divers in the desert
in Nevada. Yeah, so we went there. Gosh, this past June we went there to visit, just
south of Bonneville.
Yeah,
and they got flies the size of New Jersey there.
Yeah, and then there's still the tropical fish in there too.
Well, that's because people bring their fish and toss it in. I did a familiarization tour of writers because I was doing a story for a travel magazine, and they put me in the tank and the mask, and it's a whole park underneath. You got to grab the line, and people have actually brought pieces of art, sunk it, and anchored it. So it's an art park underwater. You would have no idea.
Yeah. When we went,
you should get involved with one of those people and go take those pictures, because that's how you first see that. You go, I know I didn't drink or have drugs, but this does not belong down here.
Now, what's that doing in Nevada?
By about the third one, you're going, okay.
And
but I would say that's the oddest, weirdest thing I've seen in Utah.
Yeah.
Of course, the coolest thing, without a doubt, is what they do at the Salt Flats.
Oh, it's so much fun. I don't have this car anymore, but I had an old Corolla when I first moved out here, and I topped it out at about 100 miles an hour on the Salt Flats because I had to try it.
Did you kneel down and put your finger and taste it?
Oh, I've done that. Yep.
See, everybody that tells me they don't, I know they're lying.
Yeah. You can't not do it, especially the first time out there,
Yeah, exactly. Now, do you know that if you had you or one of your buddies or budettes has a hot car, that
Yeah.
in September, there's the group that's the Utah group, the Utah Salt Flats Racing Association has this specialty classes for people just like you,
Yeah.
amateurs. You can, it's like a run what you brung. You can take your vehicle out there and for a minor amount of money, you can make 5 runs on the Bonneville Salt Flats on a certified, surveyed, and timed course. And after each one, you get an official time slip to say, I went this fast. I mean, you could do that with, you know, a rental car, but I'm not advocating you do a rental car because if they catch you, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Gotta get the
Take
insurance.
a VW. There are people that go out there, they have a VW group of people that just take air-cooled cars out there. But my absolute favorite is a Utah family, the Griffins. I don't remember where they're from, somewhere in the Salt Lake or Provo, or somewhere over there.
Yeah, around here somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I'm zooming around and I see this Subaru station wagon. And it's in the wrong spot, and I'm going, okay, they'll be telling them where to go, you know, in a minute, because they were in the staging lanes to go down the racetrack. Now, I'm sorry, when I saw the man and the woman there, neither one of them had any semblance at all that they knew what they were doing. Yeah. And I thought they were just lost, or they were spectators going, oh, look how close we can get, dear. And I had to go do something else, come back. Yeah. And then I thought, what the hell is this? That it was a medium blue car that in the time it took me to go to the other staging lanes of the long course and come back to the short course, they had taped all of the openings, everything on the hood, the fenders, the doors, everything where there was an opening had bright blue painter tape on it. Because you do that for aerodynamics.
Makes sense.
And I thought, no, not in the 130-mile-an-hour club. No.
No way.
Thought, that's it. I went over there and introduced myself, and sure as hell, that's exactly what they were doing. But here's the rest of the story. Yeah. The dad and the mom were there. They had taken all their personal possessions out of the car and laid them on the side. Because just before that, in the morning, they dropped their 2 kids off in school back somewhere in the Salt Lake area, drove to Bonneville, took all their junk out of the car, paid the fee, and got in line to race.
Wow.
And I think they were able to get 3, 4, I'm not sure if they got all 5, but they had to leave early. You know why?
Get their kids, right?
They had to go pick up the kids. So I said, you're not going to, I got to have your address. They are in my new book. And that to me is the extent of, you got to go try it. Just like you did it with your car.
Well, I couldn't.
Now, let's go fast forward, because that was a good decade ago. Their kids were so stunned to find out what dad did. Didn't tell them ahead of time because the kids wouldn't have gone to school.
Right, of course.
We're so stunned that both kids have had an interest. The father has retired that station wagon. It is now the official race car in the family. The son is old enough. I think he's driven. I don't remember all the details, but that lit up a family environment. You don't need sticks. You don't need balls. You don't need field goals. You don't need none of that. And they all work together to go out to Bonneville to race the family race car. How cool is that?
That's awesome. They planted the seed, huh?
That's it, you know. And so dad is now jacking up the motor and doing, he's lost. I don't care how fast you go out there. Yeah. You always want to go faster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and when I went, you know, it wasn't official or anything. I think they'd done the time trials maybe a couple weeks before. And, you know, you always see people getting stuck out there. So I was like, well, yeah. And I was alone too. So I was like, I can't pass this up. And I got lucky. I wouldn't do that.
We know that there is a guy that makes his living out there by people who do exactly what you do, only they don't exhibit good sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You will get a minimum $500 tow bill, upwards to $2,000.
He
And
probably,
if you don't want to pay, they'll just leave you there.
yeah. I always find that funny. Just
And
when you're
that's
driving by.
that you pay for stupid. You do
Yeah.
pay for stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. At least I stuck to where it was, they had the trials.
That was smart. Yeah, because people don't they forget.
Yeah.
That's the same Bonneville Salt Flats that the Donner Party
Right.
got
Yeah.
stuck in and
Yeah.
got delayed. And when they got delayed, when they got to Truckee, California, over the mountains, they got stuck. And we all know their name today because of what happened
Yeah.
for their survival. And it all started when they got stuck in Bonneville. That have you ever looked at that mud that's underneath the salt?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like plastic mud. It will suck a boot off a Marine's laced foot. It is that strong. And it's also, when they took it and put it up on top of the salt and it dries, that was where the first railroad track stayed put. Because otherwise, if it's salt, what happens when you put salt into water for spaghetti?
Well, it'll evaporate after a while. Then you just got a bunch of salt left.
Yeah, it dissolves.
Yeah.
So they couldn't put anything on top of the salt because the roadway would disappear. It isn't until they put that doggone mud on top of the salt and it hardened that they created a roadway. And even Interstate 80 out there, I'm sorry, you got to have something over the salt because the salt will come. That's to this day, the salt wants to eat you.
No.
It is not your friend unless you're going fast.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You see these guys out there in their Jeeps and stuff, and they bury them and they get stuck too. It's like, yeah, 4-wheel drive and all that's great, but you got to know your terrain.
Yeah, have you gone to try to see if there's and I don't know any old abandoned type houses or things in and around the Wendover area? Because there's a lot of cool places around. I haven't got to all of them, but I've been to about a half a dozen.
Yeah, I mainly just stick near the airfield, all those barracks and whatnot, and then they have the pool too. The old pool is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. Have you wandered around inside the town?
A little bit, yeah. There's not.
People live in some of those places that really ought to be abandoned.
And I found myself like almost going into the one before, and I was like getting out of the car, and then I looked and I saw like a new satellite dish, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, someone is definitely living in here.
Hey, we should pause. Tell people the name of your book and the detail, because I got to blow my horn on mine, and you actually put your book behind it. I didn't even bring a book.
Yeah, I planned it.
I'm a terrible author.
Here, I got a copy right here too. See if you can see it. So it's
Okay, abandoned Utah. All right.
Abandoned Utah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I should. Hey Mick, can you bring a copy of the book down? That's my husband.
Flip through it quick. I know you can't really see it very well.
No, I can see the pictures.
Yeah. Anyway.
Whoa.
There's
it's a big hole. That's
in
a mine shaft. That's a mine shaft.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of mine shaft stuff and all kinds of stuff, of course.
So how long have you been doing this? I mean, do you do this because you don't have a date or what?
No, no, my girlfriend goes with me pretty often. No, it really, it started in high school, but I didn't really get completely into it until college. So I had my degree in biomedical photography. And then as part of the degree program, you do the basics of photography and whatnot as well.
Yeah.
And it's my first year TA who really got me into it. I think she was helping me on a project or something. And then she started showing me a bunch of her photos of all these abandoned places. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
Oh.
So that's what really got me into it. And she planned her stuff out a lot more than I do. Like there is in Rochester, New York, there's this big abandoned insane asylum. But she would stake these places out and like watch what times the guards would come and when there was a shift change. So that's what got me into it. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. It's like, I can go do this. And then for my capstone project in college, I actually basically did a book. We didn't actually make the book, but I made a PDF with all the photos and everything.
Right.
And that was cool. It's just because it's like, wow, my professors gave me permission to go trespass, you know, they had to sign off on it.
Oh yeah, blame it on the academics.
Yeah, yeah.
So where do you live? Are you live in Salt Lake?
Salt Lake City now. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh,
From,
that's all right.
from New York, and then moved to Salt Lake like a lot of people for the skiing, really. But and then
Yep.
I'm a medical photographer for the.
Are you like radiology or MRI or what?
So I work in eyeballs, so retina photography. So
Oh, I know exactly what that is. One of my racer pals, oddly enough, is an ophthalmology surgeon. You know, and when I met him, we spent more time talking about Bonneville and the race cars than we did about my eyeballs.
yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, they get those done. So wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty cool looking stuff too, because you could blow those up and make a really cool piece of artwork out of
Yeah.
somebody's eyes.
you definitely can. You know, you see some crazy stuff though, especially when you get like tumors and stuff in the eye. That's where it gets.
Oh,
crazy.
let's not go there. Let's not do that. Let's talk about good stuff. So have you seen the book that I've done yet?
I haven't read it, put it that way, but you know, I was researching it and looking you up a couple weeks, you know, before this talk just to prepare myself. And boy, you have quite the career. Geez. I'm definitely the novice in this conversation.
Well, I mean, but you know, but when I was going to train, foolish girl, I'd gotten a scholarship for a university, and my major was going to be criminal psychology, because I couldn't understand why the hell people wanted to do the nasty and the vicious and the horrible to each other. And then I started to read a little bit more about it, and I thought, do I really want to fill my head up with all this?
Yeah.
And the answer was no, I don't. And then the jet car showed up, and I went, okay, I'm going to the circus. But you know, and I was involved with a recording corporation. I had a very solid, good career going. I mean, the guy that owned it produced the Grammy Awards. I mean, he knew what his stuff was, you know, and he decided he would trust this kid from the south side of Chicago with his company when he was away, you know. Anyway, he did, and it worked for a couple of years. I would leave on Friday night. I'd go race jets wherever we were racing in the country. Yeah. And I'd come back either late Sunday or very early Monday and go right to work. And then after a while, I realized I wanted to be with the race car more than I did the recording artists. And we did some big folk. So, you know, Grammy Award winners. And the bottom line was they were boring in comparison to racing. So I left and ended up being the first and only female to be the editor of a motorsports or an automotive magazine in the Peterson publishing empire, when Peterson was owned by Pete Peterson, not the corporate environment that's there now. Yeah. And then decided that the corporate world was really tough for me, because I don't really take direction, you know. Well, I take direction well, but I'm not a yes person. So if you're a jerk and I think so, or you're trying to tell me to do something that's really wrong, I'm going to ask you, why do you want me to do that? You know, this is la-di-da. And then of course, well, I'm paying the bills. No, not anymore. I quit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, and I did that, and it was a lot of fun. It was interesting, and went on to writing, because I found out that I could still go to the races, but I didn't have to get filthy dirty. I didn't have to have somebody's life in my hands. Yeah. And they paid you to write about this stuff, and they paid you to take the pictures. That did it. I got back off the road one year. I think it was 1979. I got home and I went, was it 79 or 78? Anyway, there was a couple of checks there from some of the magazines that had published the picture and a couple of the stories that I called Fire for Hire, because I dealt mainly with the jets. And I thought, oh, this is okay. And that was it. I packed up all my junk and I was going to California, and I was going to write and take pictures. And I ended up first working for Walter Elias Disney, the think tank.
Wow.
With Gordon Cooper, who was in charge of that, the Mercury 7 astronaut. It wasn't because I was a great journalist. Matter of fact, I suck at English in school. Literature is another matter. And we spent, of the hour and a half interview, we probably spent hour and 25 minutes of it talking about jets and rockets.
And that's what got you the
5
job.
minutes of it about the job he wanted me to do building the WED, Disney World. And then the human resources people got involved after about 2 months and went, well, we're having a very difficult time locating your degree and this and that. And I said, well, you're going to have a hard time for the rest of your life because you're never going to find it. Why?
Yeah.
I never went to college. Well, you can't do that job while I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
well, you kind of, I deal with rockets and jets and I build cars and I haven't killed anybody. I think that's a pretty good degree. But the Disney Corporation had rules, and I could keep the job, but I had to have only minimum wage, no benefits, or I could give up the job.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do the job and keep the pay. And I said, well, why not? Well, because it wouldn't be fair to the people who went to college. That was their deal. So I went, okay, goodbye. And there was a cocktail party that weekend, and they were looking for an editor at Peterson. I said, what's an editor do? I needed a job.
Like, I'll do it.
That was it. I got the job. And it was because of what I knew from the computer stuff, which was one of the reasons I worked at the recording studio. It was just that period of time where the world was going from paper and punch cards into the computers. And I knew how to do that because of my previous career with the state of Illinois. So that's another story. But that's the deal. I got that not because I was an editor, but because I knew how to play with the computers. So it was an odd way to get into it, and it was a lot of fun. I stayed with Peterson, and that essentially launched my journalism career because they paid me to do this stuff.
Yeah, isn't that great? I mean, even when Arcadia reached out to me, it was like, really? You guys you want to make a book out of my stuff? It's like, of course I'll do it.
How'd they find out about you?
Through Instagram, I believe it was.
Oh, see, and yeah, or Facebook. See, and
Yeah.
I'll go to my grave before I'll let Zuckerberg. I will not agree to little Zuckerberg's terms and condition. Hey, Zuckerberg, drink my bath water.
He's probably watching right now.
Good. Buy my book. Give it to all your employees. But I'm still not going to agree to your terms and conditions.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of it. It's fun. And then a friend of mine who was another editor at Popular Hot Rodding magazine, his name was Tom Center. He said, I can't tune this thing and drive it. He said, you're going to drive it and I'm going to tune it. We're going over 200, and off we were to the circus.
Okay.
And not long after that, he was diagnosed with cancer and died. And I wouldn't go back because it broke my heart. He was a dear friend and a dear mentor until the late 90s for the 50th anniversary with the Hot Rodders. That did it. We'd just finished all the world record stuff.
Yeah.
And I had queried this publishing company about, how about we'll do the supersonic showdown, you know, the Brits and the Americans, the black car and the white car, the good guys and the bad guys, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, yeah, but I don't think nobody cares, blah, blah, blah. Goodbye, little girl. Yeah. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. How would you like to write the book on the Bonneville Salt Flats history?
There you go.
It's been around 50 years, 40 years. Nobody's written this.
Yeah.
And essentially nobody had. Mm. So when they peeled me off the ceiling, I said, sure. That book that was a big hardcover thing. You could hurt somebody if you hit it. It went into 7 printings over 11 years, and they didn't think it'd sell. And I was worried, terrified I was going to see this thing on the 99-cent table. Not only did it not discount, but it went up in price, and it sold tens of thousands of copies, and I'm so pleased. So this little Arcadia book, it's kind of like it's the primer. You know how they did the Star Wars trilogy and they went backward and told you how it started? Well, that's what this little book is. This is like the little primer. The image, mine's Images in America. Yours is what series?
So it's America Through Time.
America Through Time. So I'm Images in America / Bonneville Salt Flats. Yeah. And just from 1914 to 2020. And if you read just the pictures, when you come out the back end of it, you will understand why all us crazy people go to Bonneville. Yeah. And if I do my job exceedingly well, you will come. Yeah. At least once. You don't need a car, you don't need a truck. You need sunscreen, a wide brim hat, and water, and a
Yeah.
place to get around. But that's all you need. And then you need curiosity,
Yeah.
because as you know, when you went, you didn't know a doggone thing, did you?
I did not know. I just knew what it looked like from that movie, watching it when I was a kid.
Right. And would you go back again?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Why?
Well, I just think it's a cool place, first off. But
Okay.
Speed Week,
You're an okay author. I don't even care about your book. You're an okay author.
especially for Speed Week, it's because there's just so many crazy people there too.
Okay, so who was the craziest person you met that you remember? Maybe you don't know their name, but who were they?
Well, I can tell you a drunk crazy person that I met. Does that count?
Oh, I hope he wasn't a racer.
I don't know if he was. Put it this way, it was after the trials had gone. How everyone canceled.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
So anyway, he was just this random guy, just talking to me, clearly belligerent, drunk, and then he's like, "Well, nice to meet you. I'm gonna get on my dirt bike with my girlfriend, and we're gonna go back to our RV." So you hear them go off, and then maybe half hour, 40 minutes later, he's walking back. The bike was wrecked because he crashed into like a pothole or something like that. And that was kind of my introduction into the, I guess you could call it the after party side of things.
And well, yeah, I very few racers I know that would do that. They
Yeah.
might have a drink or two,
Hopefully he
but they're
wasn't
not going to do that to crack it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. So what was who did you meet? Did you meet any of the racers, and who did you admire?
I don't think I met any of the actual racers. But one memory that really sticks out is when we first got up to the line, not knowing much about the speed records or anything like that. It's a pretty cool car there, and they go off and then they say how fast it goes.
Right.
So and so 350 miles an hour. And I just look at my friends, 350 miles an hour. And that's not even close to the record. Crazy. You don't really think about especially cars being able to go that fast until you see it in person. Even though you're at the starting line, you really only see it for a split second. But
Did you go down to the top end where you could see the cars at speed?
No, we did not.
Oh, well, now you got to go back.
We're gonna do that next time.
Because anybody that buys a pit pass, you get at the starting line, the staging lanes, in the pit area, but then just past the pit area for about a half a mile, you can just pull your car, drive it right there, stop and bring your umbrella and your stuff, and you can watch those things. And at that point, that's about the 5 mile. You'll see those things whistling through there because you're in the long course. They're all over 175 miles an hour. And when a car that's going 300 or 400 or 500 miles an hour is on the course, you will hear it before you see it.
That's crazy.
And then it goes, boom, wow. And I tell people, you want to do, it's like this. It starts very small and then it goes, meow.
We saw a car pretty much, well, the car didn't blow up, but blew their engine pretty much on the starting line. You hear like the 3, 2, 1, or however they do it. And then, it's going pretty good. And then you just hear something pop. And then I remember a guy next to me, he just goes, "Oh, he's blown his engine again."
Again. The operative word there is again.
Yeah. It's like this guy probably comes here every year to try it.
But, I think it was Andretti that said, if everything is in good shape and there's nothing happening, you're not going fast enough.
Yeah, exactly.
On the cover of my book, there are 3 vehicles, each one historically significant in its own right. But the one of the belly tank is Tom Beattie. He and his wife, Frankie, and the kids were all invested in this. They used to call him Blow or Go Beattie because he would either blow it to smithereens or go like a scalded cat. One year, which is the best, he went through 8 engines in 7 days.
Jeez.
And that included the engine that he took out of the station wagon that he pulled everything up with. And he had to call his wife to come and get the parts and drive up so he could repair the engine to take everything home. Now, the thing of it is, remember what I said, wife, please bring parts. Wife understood. Frankie knew exactly what she had to get out of the garage, loaded him in the back of the car with the kids, and up to Bonneville. Now, from where they lived, that was 700 miles one way.
Jeez.
That's Tom Blower Go Beatty.
That's awesome, though.
And at the book, we had a book signing in Southern California in Oxnard. Oh, no, Ventura. And Tom Beatty Jr., who is now an older man of some age, he was there and he said, yeah, that's Mom, Dad, and my two brothers. I wasn't born yet, but they're on the cover of the deal. Well, by the way, you could do this. Drive-by book signings work very well. So one of these abandoned joints, if you've got a pal that owns it or something, you could say, I, blah, 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 will be blah, blah, blah here from 12 until 3 on this day. If you want a copy of the book, go to one of those abandoned things and get the permission. Just set up the table. We had our little pop-up. We had Steve even put the plastic shields in front. And I said, I will not sign any book if you don't have a mask on and you don't keep your butt 6 feet away from me. Yeah. So, and we did that. And that book signing was the 21st of November. It's now the 1st.
Yeah, 1st of December already. Jeez.
I've sold 350 books.
Yeah, there you go.
But they can't be that hard. They're only $22.
Yeah.
What got me for this one, and for which I'm very grateful to every single person who bought the book, every person bought that book sight unseen, because it was just on the strength of the fact that I had written the thing and had done stuff before, and they just sent their money and waited for the book. That's pretty astonishing. Yeah. So I hope you have that level of success. Yeah. And if you're the same guy, I think it is, for that hospital, you take some pretty good pictures.
Well, thank you. I hope I'm the same guy.
I guess I got to go find the book and take a look at it. They're out now. Obviously, it's been out since August, right? Yeah,
since August 24th. So, they're on Amazon, Arcadia's website, and Barnes and Noble, and I know here locally they'll be in the Weller bookstore and a couple other ones as well. But,
have you had any book signings?
No, I wanted to do one, but really because of COVID. However, I've signed a bunch and just sent them out to people who requested them and messaged me. Right. So I probably, since it all started, I've probably, just from my personal supply of books, sold about, close to probably 100, 120, 130, something like that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Now, is it the same deal where it's like a $22, the 128 page thing? Okay.
Yeah, very similar. Yep.
Yeah. So it's not something daunting, because
now
I'm working on another book for the University of Utah Press, and two of them for them. One is on the Blue Flame rocket car, and the other is going to be I told them at the university, I said, when I get this done, it's the full-on, like an encyclopedic scholarly work of all the details I can find out about anybody that raced at Bonneville. Wow. I said, forget about the Library of Congress. I don't want a cataloging in number. I said, you go register that thing at the DEA. What? I said, because if I hit you in the head, it's a weapon. I can concuss you. I mean, it's I'm up to 271,000 words. Wow. And I've placed 550 photographs in the manuscript, and I'm only up to 1970.
Right. Yeah, that's
I got 50 more years to go.
And I thought my book was a lot of work.
Yeah, gosh. So it's a lot of fun, and I get a kick out of these Arcadia ones. These little tastes. It's like going to have a wine flight, a taste.
Oh yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Are you going to do another book for them?
Yeah, and because of COVID, they said, things have kind of been delayed, but I have a couple possible in the works, and then one for a new series that they're going to come out with called Photographers America. And
Photographers in America?
Yeah, or more like the viewpoint of the photographers in America. And kind of how Arcadia is, they like to do the local history. So
right.
Whole bunch of authors all over the place. And it's not, they told me, they're like, you can use some abandoned photos if you want, but we're more interested in like photos of like quaint towns and stuff like that, and like unique, strange attractions.
Great
Yeah,
town.
hardest part is for me was there's no example because it's a new series. Like with my abandoned book, I had examples from other authors who've done it, and they weren't very specific in what they wanted. So it's like, well, I'll go out, shoot a bunch of photos, do a quick write up to give them an example, and yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. But I'm also working on another one in the abandoned series as well, because
Huh.
they're like, feel free to submit another proposal for the abandoned books. So that's what I'm working on now.
You should see if you could. I know you're doing abandoned buildings.
Yes, all kinds of
Try
stuff.
to go do abandoned cars.
Oh yeah, and I
Junkyard.
do a lot of them.
And in Utah, or if you go to Arizona,
Yeah,
you could go to the airplane junkyards. And one of the coolest things is in Tucson. When I was racing, because they don't make these jet engines that we were using at the time, we would go to those abandoned, essentially they are airplane graveyards.
Yeah,
And we would
boneyards.
find parts on the jet engines that nobody else wanted, but it was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Because it would help us race.
Yeah,
And we were constantly scavenging, but I would take pictures of these monstrous things and they just sit out there and cook.
yeah,
It's like, it'd be like Egypt and the pyramids, only they got wings.
yeah. They're just sitting there rotting away.
Hundreds of them, thousands of them.
Yeah.
Look into that. I would say go find where is the coolest junkyard?
Yeah.
Where is the coolest graveyard? And in Tucson, I can tell you right now, it's in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Tucson, Phoenix area, mainly Tucson. But think about cars that have been just left out for decades.
Yeah. And I find them all the time, just randomly at spots that I stop. A lot of the abandoned houses have the car that looks like it came with the house, and it's just sitting back there and full of bullet holes, and they're always pretty neat looking though.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, there's I just came across country from, like I said, I did that book signing in California, came across 40 through Amarillo, and on Interstate 40 on the south side is the Cadillac Ranch. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I've heard about the Cadillac Ranch. I've seen pictures of it. Yeah, they're planted in
I was
the
talking to my friends in Denver, and they said, well, you're in Amarillo, go to the Cadillac Ranch. I said, so does it look like that? And she said, yeah. And she said, why? I said, because we just went by.
Yeah.
And I didn't really notice it because it was nice weather, and there must have been 200 people out around the cars. So you couldn't really see the cars. You saw these things sticking up, but there were a lot of people. And I thought, what the heck, and you're traveling at a high rate of speed.
Right. Not breaking the speed limit though, right?
Not that I'm going to say on this thing. So, yeah, we went right by, but there's a number of those things like that. There's Carhenge.
Carhenge.
You know about Carhenge?
It doesn't, because I've been to a place like that in Nevada. I don't know if it's Carhenge. Is that not Carhenge?
Look up Carhenge.
Carhenge. Here, let me write that down too.
Carhenge, and that's an abandoned deal for you. You will call me back or send me a note and thank me when you go see this. You got to go off Interstate 80 or 70. I think it's 80. And you got to go due north for X number of miles. Okay. But when you see this thing, you'll go, who the hell did this? And you're so glad you went. Bring a lunch,
Okay.
But it is the damnedest thing. And it is about the same size as Stonehenge, because I've been to both now.
Yeah. Awesome, though. I'll have to check it out. I went to a similar one in, I think it was, well, it's a couple of years ago now, but Goldfield, Nevada. And we went to that one because it's a ghost town, and the town has brought a bunch of the artifacts out all along the town. So it's almost like a museum that you can just drive through.
Yeah.
But there's also a car section to that where they've got buses pointed up in the air.
Buses?
Yeah, there's only like 3 or 4 of them, but still, it's pretty impressive when you see it. It's like, who the heck had this idea?
There was a crane involved. You can bet on that.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah.
What's the one is it Nevada or Utah? Near Ichthyosaur, I think it's Nevada, Ichthyosaur State Park. It's one of the best preserved ghost towns. What the heck is the name of it? I've been to it. It's right outside of Ichthyosaur State Park. Doggone it, near Reno.
I'll have to look
Think of
that
it.
up.
But I mean, these are places where people just abandon it. And like the gambling hall, the cards are still on the floor, the roulette wheel is turned over, and it's all just cracked and nasty and all that. But it's near Ione. Is it Ione, Nevada? Ione, Ichthyosaur State Park.
Okay.
And I remember we were there at an election year, and the guy was running for sheriff, and his bumper sticker, I've got one. It says "Stick with Stick Davis for sheriff."
That's quite
Still sheriff. Stick with Stick. Okay. The heck is the name of that town? Very, very famous. It was there for mining, mercury, gold, and then of course that all went to hell after a while.
Yeah, it always does.
It's a very, very, it's extremely well preserved. It's either a federal or a state park, and they keep it in a constant state of decay.
Awesome. That's the best places.
Yeah. So I get that, you know, and I always went in places I wasn't supposed to, but
Well, that's all.
over in Europe, well, that's another matter. So there you go. Are you going to go over to Europe and do this? Are you going to have an international?
So I actually have a connection in Europe now. The photographer that really one of my best friends that I used to hang out with here in Salt Lake, he moved to Germany, and that's where he's from. So I've got a connection over there now.
Cool.
Just have to wait for COVID to die down.
Oh, I think we're going to get told it's over. Have you been listening to this, Salen, or you've been out?
No, I have been listening. I've been listening to the whole thing. And y'all actually answered a lot of the questions that I was going to ask you, which is great. I loved all of the stories that you both shared. To round us off, I really just want to ask if either of you have any projects you're working on right now that you want to talk a little bit about. You mentioned that you were doing something with the University of Utah Press.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, there's two books that are in play there. One is on the Blue Flame rocket car, which, as I sit here and talk to you tonight, remains the fastest American designed, built, and operated hot rod, period, at 622 or 30 miles an hour. It was designed by the Illinois Institute of Technology. It was built by Pete Farnsworth and his crew in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then raced out at the Bonneville Salt Flats, where at Bonneville, this is still the fastest car on the salt, because not long after that, then they took and had to go to Black Rock. The surface is degrading. And I don't care if the BLM is listening, you guys have not been doing your job, and it's gotten smaller and thinner and more dangerous. So the world record setting has left from other parts to do that. So I'm going to try to, shall we say, put the story together on that. And then the other one is the one that I was talking about. It's a scholarly work. Only do one of these in your life. If they ask you to do this really and you're not ready, run in the other direction.
All right, good advice.
You. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing. What about you?
Yeah.
There's a upcoming book. It's Photographers America. It's going to be a little different than the Abandoned Utah. We're still kind of figuring out what they want, really, because it's going to be me, and then as Arcadia does, you know, they'll have photographers in every state to kind of cover all the areas. And then I'm always working on abandoned stuff. That never ends. Never ends.
Awesome. Hey,
Oh, and there is one more for Arcadia.
yeah.
Well, I haven't submitted the proposal because we wanted this book to come out because I'm a virgin with Arcadia. But we're going to do a book that's going to be just on women in motorsports.
Awesome.
Racers, cars, trucks, motorcycles.
Excellent.
There are women that have been over 300 miles an hour in cars and motorcycles. And with a little luck, there's going to be a girl that's going to be over 400 and 500 miles an hour in a car. It is my hope and dream that before I leave this parched earth, that not only is a woman sets the world record, but she takes the crown off of Andy Green's British head and puts the tiara on her American head.
There you go.
That's the plan. That's the dream. We all have dreams, right? Anyway, that's it. That's what I'm doing.
Lovely. Well, thank you both so much. This was a really, really fun event. If y'all enjoyed this conversation, please consider supporting Nick and supporting Louise by buying copies of the books. And please consider supporting our bookstore by buying them through us. And yeah, I think that's all.
Right.
Well, when I'm in town, I'll come and sign them for you.
Oh, please do. That would be lovely. Yes, get your signed copies of these books.
I'm right up the street pretty much, so I'll do the same.
Beautiful. Yeah, let's set a date. Great. We'll stay in touch.
Thanks for
There
having
you go.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for doing this and taking the time. And my congratulations to Weller to making, books relevant even in a COVID pandemic kind of way. Hey.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay,
Bye.
you both have a wonderful night. Goodbye.
Bye.